to see everyone. It's always fun to have our first press conference because, game day is extremely close. But thrilled to be here, excited to have another season. I know our guys were extremely excited on Saturday. We kind of wrapped up our mock game, and at that moment, it officially became game week, and there was a huge round of applause and cheers and just the excitement of getting an opportunity to run out of the dome in front of our fans, again, to open up the 22 season is exciting. We've had an excellent fall camp. Really pleased with where we're at. I don't think it's a finished product yet. I think there's some things that we need to continue to improve on and in some areas that we can continue to improve on throughout the season. One of the things that I think I was pleased with was you never saw multiple days or even a full practice where one side of the ball had the advantage. Felt like there was a lot of back and forth between offense and defense. When I see that and when I notice that, I think competitiveness. I think that a lot of just true competition at practice, which is good. I think anytime you can get your offense and defense to really test one another during fall camp is going to be a benefit, especially as the season goes on. Offensively, we challenge everyone with a lot of trade shift in motion, unbalanced, some unique formation, multiple personnel groupings, and then defensively, numerous coverages, a lot of movement up front, and then there's also some high pressure situations. And so the competitiveness, the amount of red zone, the amount of third down and or pass under pressure periods that we did, I think we applied a lot of solid pressure to our playmakers, and hopefully we'll see the results this Saturday. First game's always exciting because it at least gives you kind of a barometer of where you're at as a football team. Hard to say you got to improve at this, and this without having a game under your belt. Right now we're trying to prepare for everything because that's what you do in fall camp. You know there's there's 3 non-conference games and then 8 conference games that are ahead of you, and you want to make sure you try to at least touch on every situation that you can, and hopefully your kids can have some recall during the course of the season. But I'll open it up for questions.
A lot of guys on this 2 deep were guys that were kind of maybe thrown in the spring, the COVID year. Do you feel like you're finally kind of caught up and you have a veteran group again after what had happened there?
Well, I think just based on numbers, we do. There's 14 seniors that we know that'll be playing their last year of football for the Bison this year. So I think just that number in itself is probably pretty consistent throughout the years. I know we've had some big ones, but seldom do we have a class that's smaller than that. We do have a really good, solid group of juniors and seniors that have played a lot of football for us, and that will give us a ton of leadership as we move forward.
Is it a true rotation at middle linebacker for Saturday?
I think at this moment right now, knock on wood, I anticipate that's probably what you'll see. You'll see both players get opportunities, and I would imagine that the rep count will be very similar to each other. Both of them have done excellent job, and I think it's a good problem that we have is we have 2 young men that have really grasped the position, one coming back off an injury, and Nick having moved from Will linebacker to Mike to find a spot for himself. He's done an outstanding job, and really looking forward to both of those guys being able to execute and play with a lot of energy on Saturday.
Do they have 2 separate traits, or are they similar?
They're similar, but physical tools, they probably are a little bit different. But I think they're wired very similarly, and probably the way they're both wired fits into playing Mike linebacker at NDSU.
Freshmen for sure are going to go on Saturday, and anybody that you're just like, oh yeah, we're not gaming this kid.
No, there's no one. I'm going to answer your last question first. There's nobody at this time that we just think is a no-brainer that we're going to yank the 4 game and move on. I think you might see a handful of freshmen dress this first game, and just one. I think the experience is critical. So when you do need to use them, all of a sudden the shock and awe of the lights being off and Thunderstruck being on doesn't quite rattle their cages as much. But there'll probably be 4 or 5 freshmen that'll be dressed this year for us.
Back to the middle linebacker a second. Is there a downside to alternating there? Because you've always had one guy the whole game.
That is a question that Coach Olson and I have talked about. You seldom see position changes or rotation at the linebacker position, maybe like we do at corner or at the defensive line. So I think it has to be done appropriately. If there's someone that's kind of in a zone or playing really well, that may not be the greatest time to make a change. But we're going to try to utilize some different bodies at different times. You guys know we're going to use a lot of personnel in our defense and offense, and I think that's a good thing. I think kids enjoy that, and it keeps the majority of our team engaged during preparation.
Create a situation where like maybe Kays gets the signals because he doesn't come off at will, even though he's not the Mike linebacker.
Everyone anymore on our defense has to know the signals because of the increased number of no huddle teams we play. We've really gone to everyone needs to see it. Of course, the Mike and the strong safety are the two individuals that really have to be kind of the communicators. But I think James can be a great kind of resource for both those young players in there.
Is that a rotation, or has anybody won that job outright?
Are you place kicking duties? I think Griffin Crosa will take care of all our PAT. Right now, Will Cardinal probably has a little stronger leg, and so if we did get stretched out over the course of the field, I think you could see Will come in and anything that, if the ball was, 25 and plus, I think, like I said, he has a bigger leg. He gets it up a little bit quicker, but Griffin's been probably more consistent at the PATs.
What are some of the important things you have to do, transitioning from a fall camp practice to getting ready for a game practice? Kind of what are some of the big changes that you guys have to make out there?
Well, we start preparation for game one on about 10 days out. And so this week, we've really ramped up and finalized some of the major installs through Saturday. This week, we'll go half pads today, probably hour and a half max. Tomorrow will be full pads. Last time, I like full pads one more time just to get everyone's attention. You go half pads all week, I think, when you're 18 to 22-year-old, sometimes you lose focus a little bit. So having full pads, having knee braces on for our offensive and defensive linemen, I think just re-engages everyone. It does give us an opportunity to do some goal line, some short yardage, situational work amongst both offense and defense. But then Wednesday, Thursday, both practices will be in the dome, trying to get accustomed to the facility, get accustomed to the black ceiling. We'll have noise on when the defense is out there. Again, just anticipating that our fans have something to cheer about on Saturday.
How do you guys make the adjustments so far? You mentioned you start getting ready about 10 days out. How have you seen the guys make those changes so far, kind of flip the switch?
I think the first thing is when we start preparing for an opponent, I think there's a sigh of relief of our team because we've gone against one another for about 15 or 16 practices, and we've gotten to the point where it becomes chippy, it becomes highly competitive. Some extracurriculars are happening in between plays, and we get to a point where it's time for us to leave. Both when we come in the locker room, it's unbelievable, one team, but when we're on the football field, it is a competitive situation.
Just roll out of bed and replace a top 1% athlete like Christian Watson. But it seems like your experienced receivers are kind of in that like 5'9" to 6Z slot type guys. Yep. Is Zach Mathis kind of playing at the X, or is it someone younger, maybe a Bryce Lance? Who's the big body kind of featured receiver that you're looking at?
Zach is healthy right now, and we're going to continue to utilize him the best we can. He's done a nice job since he's been back. We did kind of delay his start of fall camp till probably about day 9 or 10, and just because of the frequency that he's been banged up a little bit. We wanted to, how can we stretch him out over the course of a long season? Bryce Lance has really taken off from where he was in the spring, and I'm really encouraged by him. Go back to the fall, Bryce Lance gave me headaches because every time I'd go down and watch the defense, he was catching a ball in the end zone, and so I'd turn right back around and say, well, that's the last thing I want to see right now. And he's just kind of starting to pick up for where he left off there. Great hands, becoming more intentional in the run game. Knows what he's doing, has really worked hard on body control. He's such a big, long kid. I felt like early in his career he gave away when he was sitting down, arms were all over the place, almost like a baby giraffe out there. He's gotten stronger, he's gotten more physical, and I think he's at the point right now he's going to help us on offense but also on special teams. And so he's a guy that's going to see the field. Jake Lippy's back, healthy, a little bit longer of a receiver, can help us at the X position as well. So I think we have ample bodies there. Now, they all kind of provide a different skill set in what we're going to ask them to do.
Anyone on this depth chart that we can expect to not see play on Saturday?
At this moment right now, everyone, we're ready to go. You know, we got to get through a few more days.
Sam Young done to find his way onto this 2 deep?
Well, as you know, Sam has been all over the special teams, and very similar to a lot of players here at NDSU. Special teams is kind of where you earn that trust. You start to create that role, and it doesn't matter if you're an offensive or defensive kid. And I think over the course of the spring 21, fall 22, Sam has been one of those young men that have been on all these special teams. Coach Braun, Coach Morgan have great trust and faith in him. And he's done a great job of just, you know, the space between his ears, preparing. He understands what he has to do at strong safety. He also understands his limitations, and so he knows that being uber smart, alignment, calls can really help him, you know, help us.
Drake.
Well, just what I've watched on film. Not a lot out there right now. I know, I think Ian Corwin will be their starting quarterback per their depth chart. Young man played a bunch for him last year. Does provide a little bit of challenge with some quarterback run game. You know, in some games, you know, earlier last year, they were able to use him in some +1 offensive schemes, and so we'll have to make sure that we have that defended. You know, they have some returning. Colin Howard's a returning offensive line, or excuse me, returning wide receiver for him. Matt Hartley played a bunch at tight end. Not a lot of familiar names at the offensive line, maybe 1 or 2. So it'll be interesting to see how, you know, what they look like, what their actual personnel is. I've gotten to know Coach a little bit through the years, and I know they'll be ready to go and they'll be well coached.
For you as a head coach, does it add any extra challenge when, you know, you guys are playing for the first time, it says, in nearly 60 years? Does it make it a little bit more challenging for you as a coach when, you know, you may not necessarily know, as opposed to, say, a Missouri Valley team?
Well, I probably try to do a little more research. You know, in this day of age where every game's available, they have every snap of us playing last year. We have every snap of them. Probably have some games from where coaches have been other places, just trying to do your background work. You know, we know how many reps everyone has access to everything, and so not where it becomes a challenge is if they come out and do something different. All of a sudden, you have to be able. That's more of a sideline adjustment, and then, you know, if they come in here and they want to do a whole bunch of quarterback run games, some of our single high defense may not be appropriate for Saturday. And same thing for them. They're going to have to adjust. There's going to be some wrinkles we do offensively and special teams as well. So that's why game 1 is so critical, because you're preparing for more than probably what you've seen. I've thrown a lot of what ifs at our coaches during the last week. What if we need to defend this? What if they surprise onside? Just different things, so we are fully prepared for those uncontrollable moments, if you will.
Johnson looks like his RB1. I know you've raven about what you've seen from the spring. What is the biggest change in Kobe's game from the spring?
What I've seen over the course of fall camp, he's stronger. I think, especially in the lower body. I think what we saw in 2019 was a freshman who didn't know what he was doing, so he just ran for his life. And then in 21, we started to see a guy who knew the offense and tried to make every run perfect. And sometimes that just doesn't happen. At the running back position, sometimes things have to happen organically. You know, you hit the cutback maybe when that wasn't the appropriate read. And I think what we're seeing now is a Kobe Johnson who's playing at another level again. Now he knows everything, protection-wise, run game-wise, but he's playing at another gear. And then he may be one of the hardest working kids at practice every day. And I think that is refreshing to see, and I think it's good for our football to see when it's a guy who carries the ball who's also one of our top workers.
For reps, and where do you see him in the mix?
He's been practicing, doing a great job. Actually trying to get himself into shape now is probably the biggest concern. And just a brief story. On Saturday, mock game, was taking scout team reps because he just wanted more reps carrying the football, more football, you know, getting in shape by playing football mode. You know, we can go run with Coach Kramer and do all those things, but still the best way to get in shape is just by playing football.
Oh, and Tyler handle that. I mean, you've got 4 backs that have been in huge spots for you.
Right.
TK showed what he could do, and you've been talking about Barika since he got on campus. I mean, how do you put that on them?
Well, I think part of it is based on what we're seeing that week from a defense, whose skill set fits in, how do we want to, how much fullback are we using that week? That always can have a big implication on, how much Hunter gets involved at the tailback position. But, I know this, you're going to see 3-4 backs during the course of the year. And I can't remember if it was 2016, 2017, we were at the end of the roster with running backs. And I told them that's never going to happen again. We're always going to have ample, and we're going to have enough to get through a season because it is a physical. We play a physical brand of game. Our league is physical. We practice a physical brand of football, and so you have to have ample bodies.
Hendricks, he's listed as an or as a backup at DN. What tell us about Dylan Hendricks? I've not
Dylan made the transition in the spring to defensive end, and so has done a great job. Has picked it up, weighs 250 right now. Coach Kramer has done an excellent job with him in the weight room. Those of you remember Dylan from his recruiting days, Dylan was one of the top rugby players in the country coming out of high school. And so I think he's just a good football player. And the closer we can get him around the football, it seems the more plays he makes. And this has been a very positive change.
Linebacker spot, you imagine you'll see a few guys play Saturday?
I think so. I think, and just like any normal game, you saw a lot of people play at that position. We have a nickel spot that's there as well that I think you'll see guys like Dom Jones, Destin Talbert. You could see Michael Tutsi playing in that position. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see both Oscar and Julian taking reps there.
Find a way to get Dom Jones on the field.
I think I don't know if you have to, but I want to. He's a really good football player. You've seen glimpses, spring 21, end of last year, even the national championship game in January. He's a pretty special kid. With his length and his speed and his ability to really cover from ticks to tick at free safety, he's pretty unique.
Coach, other than a win, obviously, what are some of the things that you're looking to see in game one? Any kinks you want to see worked out?
Execution and energy. Those are the two things. If I were to sum it up real quickly, I want to see us execute at a high level. I want to see us play with a ton of energy. And probably the third thing is just control some of the controllables. And what I'm getting at is some of those intolerable penalties, offsides, false starts, illegal formation, illegal shift. I want to minimize those things. We cannot have negative plays offensively and or defensively and give people an advantage with the chains.
Deep the depth chart is, and there's a lot of oars on the 2 deep right now. Kind of how important are these early games to kind of work out who you want to see on the field?
Well, I think it's extremely critical. All of a sudden now you're under the lights. It's live football. It's one thing making plays in practice. It's another thing to be able to do it in front of 19,000 fans in a critical situation of a game. And so, the tackling aspect, who are our best tacklers and how do we get them in the right situation? What is our best personnel on third down? What's our best personnel on a short yardage situation? I think there's a lot of things that we have a pretty good idea right now of what it looks like, but you also want to see, okay, can they execute now? And is that trust warranted to be out there?
Rosio going to double dip both as long snapper and still fullback for you?
Yep, he will. He's been challenged quite a bit as far as all of a sudden there's a touchdown and now you have to snap. And so we've tried to emulate those moments as much as we can, even in a situation like a Mayday situation where offensively we don't have any timeouts. There's less than 15 seconds left. You're on the field on third down, and now you have to snap. Are you snapping with your gloves on or without your gloves? You really don't have any time to figure it out. And so he's done both. During fall camp, we've tried to challenge him. We've tried to get him in front of the team, put a little pressure on him. He's done an unbelievable job. The one thing on PATs, he gives us a little bit bigger body at that long snapper spot where in years past when you talk about like a guy like Ross Kennelly, not real big, expanded those A-gaps a little bit, and you were always worried about some internal pressure. I think Brosio will do a really good job with that.
He was a long snapper.
He was. Long snapper, linebacker. All right, appreciate it. See you guys Saturday.